Good afternoon, Mr. Nkosi.
Good evening, CJ.
How are you this afternoon?
I'm well, thanks, and how are you all?
All right, you may take off your mask because there is enough distance between yourself and the commissioners.
Okay.
Thank you for availing yourself for consideration for appointment as a judge. I'm going to ask you some questions. Then I will allow the JP to ask you questions and the Premier's representative, Adwait Singh, and then any other commissioners who wish to ask you questions. I see from the questionnaire that you have a B.Juris degree, which you got from the University of Zululand in 1990, an LLB, which you got from Wits University in 1993, and an LLM that you say you got from the University of Pretoria, and an LLD that you got in the USA. Is that correct?
That's correct, CJ.
Under LLD, you wrote USA in brackets immediately after LLD.
Yes.
Normally, one writes there after the degree the name of the university from which he got that degree. But I see that you didn't write the name of the university, you wrote the name of the country. But after B.Juris, you wrote UniZul, which is the abbreviation for the University of Zululand. After LLB, you wrote Wits University. And after LLM, you wrote Pretoria. So in respect of 2 degrees, you wrote the names of the universities. And in respect of your LLM, you wrote the name of the city, of a city. In regard to LLD, you wrote the name of the country. What is the name, or is there a reason why you wrote the name of the country after LLD as opposed to the name of the university from which you got it?
Thank you, CJ. There was no specific reason why I just changed not to follow the sequence. I just did it for the sake of letting anyone reading about this to see that it's not within South Africa. I rather quote the country, but I don't mind disclosing it. For the sake of being open, it's Atlantic International University, which has got branches in New York and Hawaii and Honolulu.
I'm sorry, just repeat the name of the university.
Atlantic International University.
Atlantic International University.
University. It's a correspondence university or online university.
Oh, I see here that you write that you got it in 2021, the LLD.
No, I graduated last week, 27 March, but I passed it last year.
Sorry?
I passed it last year. The graduation was just 2 weeks ago.
Yes, so, but I'm saying on your questionnaire, you wrote 2021. So that may be when you completed.
When I completed
the studies.
When they confirmed that I've met all the requirements.
Yes. Your LLM Was it a dissertation only, or was it a coursework, or was it a combination of coursework and dissertation?
It was dissertation plus coursework where I had to write examinations for that.
It was a dissertation and coursework.
Yes.
Okay. What did you write on your dissertation?
It was human rights and constitutional practice.
Was that the topic?
Yes, the examination was based on human rights and constitutional practice and a little dissertation supporting the views that we were reading about.
Yes, no, what I'm looking for is the title of the dissertation. What is it?
The new dawn of South African human rights studies.
The New Dawn.
Yes.
The New Dawn of South African human rights.
Practice, yes. Practice.
Or the New Dawn of South African human rights practice.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That was the title of your dissertation for your master's.
That's correct.
Okay. What other courses did you do for the master's?
We were based on interpreting the new constitution by then as to how is it going to be approached, how are we going to implement it, and do the interpretation for the sake of understanding how human rights are dealt with in the new dawn.
Yes, but what I'm asking is, what were the other courses that you had to pass apart from the dissertation that you did for your master's?
The topic that I had, it was all about human rights practice and constitutional rights and human rights practice in South Africa. That was the topic, though it was covering different subjects, but were based and focused on human rights practice in South Africa.
Well, I want to try and understand. Earlier on, I asked you whether your LLM
Yes.
was based only on a dissertation, or whether it was based on a dissertation plus courses, or whether it was based on courses only. And I understood you to say it was based on a dissertation plus courses. Is that what you said?
Let me put it again for the sake of making it much more
Yeah,
clear.
but I want what you said.
Yes.
Is that what you said, or is that not what you said?
No, that's what I said.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it correct what you said?
Yes, it's correct.
Okay. So what do you call the causes that were part of what you needed to pass?
The way the course was done was presented by different lecturers on different topics having to do with human rights and constitutional practice in South Africa. It was new on its own, and it was taught by different people who were coming on different occasions at the University of Pretoria.
Well, was it not like this? Because I think this is what most universities do when they offer a master's course degree that combines a dissertation and courses, that it tells you that these are the causes and gives you the names. If there is labor law, there is labor law. If there is banking law, there is banking law. If there is commercial law, there is commercial law. It tells you these are the causes that you must pass. And then it tells you, in addition, you must do a dissertation. Maybe they will say the topic you must agree with your supervisor or whoever. But you know in advance these are the causes. You know what they are. Is that not how it was done in your case?
No, it wasn't like that, CJ. Let me just put it in a different way. Various lecturers were invited to come in and offer different topics on human rights and constitutional practice. I'll give you an example also by, if I'm permitted to quote names of our lecturers. Professor Davis could come and present studies on tax law in the New South Africa, because the constitution was new by the time, 1996, even before it got adopted by the time. But each and every lecturer was presenting a different topic.
Okay.
Anyone who deals with issues to do with science
Yeah.
will come and present the issues of science. How does it relate to our constitution? Because it was a new dawn on South African constitution, which was new in South Africa. Yes.
Okay.
So different subjects were presented by different lecturers. A week we'll have a different lecturer who deals with a separate topic, but relating to the issues of human rights and constitutional practice, as to if there's a challenge on constitutional issues, how are you going to challenge it? How are you going to present it in the Constitutional Court?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. And your LLD, what was the topic that you researched?
It was a continuation of human rights and legal studies based on...
Just repeat, confirmation? Or
Sorry?
The topic or title of the thesis?
What I'm saying is the LLD was based on the continuation of the human rights and legal studies on different topics. Mine that I dealt with, which I had to write my dissertation, was based on the UNESCO, the Sustainability of Development Goals 2030, which has got a target of 2030 as to when is it going to be rechecked again, if whether there is sustainable development on the specific topics, different topics of the Constitution.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and what conclusions did you reach in your thesis?
Well, we are in the process approaching 2030 as the target for the sustainability of all these rights that have been covered on different topics of the Constitution, or comparatively speaking, with other constitutions from other countries.
And how long did it take you to research and do the dissertation and complete it?
It took me 2 years in full.
3 years?
2 years.
2 years or 3?
2.
2 years, okay, all right. Thank you. You were admitted as an attorney, is it 1996?
1995.
1995.
Yes.
And at some stage you worked in the office of the state attorney, is that right?
After my admission in 1995, I was employed at the office of the state attorney as an assistant state attorney.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So you have been an attorney for, what is it, close to 27 years, 28?
Almost there.
Almost 30.
Almost there.
Almost there.
27 years.
Yes. Do you, in your practice, do you do trials yourself, criminal and civil, without counsel sometimes or all the time?
When I started CJ, I was on my own.
Yes.
And I grew up in the process.
Yeah.
I had to get candidate attorneys and PAs who were coming to help me. But the first few years, I was running on my own.
Yes. Okay. So because you were alone or on your own, you were doing everything yourself?
It's true.
Yes. Do you still do the same now, or you no longer do that now?
Now I've got a few people under my auspices in my office.
Yes.
I've got 2 PAs and 2 candidate attorneys.
Okay,
And
all right.
if a matter requires more experience,
Yes.
I brief counsel where it's necessary, or I just go on my own.
Yes. And you have acted in the High Court
That's correct.
for how long have you acted if you put together all the acting stints?
It's more than 10 years. More than 10 years,
More than 10 years.
yes,
Huh?
yes.
If you put together all the months and weeks, they would make up about 10 years, more than 10 years.
Yes, I started appearing, or,
Now I'm talking about acting as a judge, not appearing.
okay. It's not a period of not less than 5 years, if I may put it.
So
In that
if you put together all the months and weeks where you acted in the High Court, you say when you
Yes.
put all of them together, they would make up a period of not less than 5 years.
Yes, that's correct.
So that's quite a long time.
It is.
Yes. Okay. And have you written judgments? Have you got written judgments that have been reported by any chance?
I have written judgments which has been published, and some of them have been challenged. Some of them have been just implemented as they are, because I acted in the labor court as well. Judgments that I wrote there, a few of them.
Please speak up so that everybody can hear you.
I say I've written a few judgments which have been implemented already. Some have been challenged.
About how many written judgments have you produced during your various acting stints that would make up 5 years? It must be many.
There must be many, not less than 40.
Not less than 40.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I include labor court judgments that I did,
Yeah.
and bargaining councils, different bargaining councils which I've been presiding over,
Yes.
and the CCMA as well, where I've been a commissioner for some time,
Yes.
and in the small claims court, though, is just judgments that you're passing through without having to write them.
Yes.
In the small claims court.
And in the High Court, have you sat in full bench appeals, and you have done motion court and civil and criminal trials? Is that correct?
This is correct, JC.
Yes. Yes. What can you tell the commissioners that would show that you embrace the values of the Constitution? What can you tell the commissioners about yourself that would show that you don't reject the Constitution, you embrace its values?
Well, CJ, I'm proud to say, as a South African, I got an opportunity to learn more by participating in all the legal fields that I was given an opportunity to preside over cases, different cases, and where we sit as full bench together with other senior judges, and writing different judgments which have been delivered, and some of them have been challenged, some have been challenged but could not succeed. It was confirmed judgments, and being a person who has been also helping in other higher learning institutions as a part-time lecturer, just to help our people to understand how the Constitution works, how is it implemented, how can it be challenged if there's a need, how to approach different problems in a better way within the constitutional atmosphere of our country.
Thank you. I will now allow the Judge President to put questions to you. And after that, Advocate Singh, who represents the Premier, and thereafter the commissioners. They'll put questions to you aimed at establishing whether, if you were appointed, your appointment would meet the selection criteria that are used by this body, and that includes whether or not you are a person of integrity and whether you are fit and proper, whether you are duly qualified, and what message your appointment would send out to the community at large. Judge President, you may put your questions.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good evening, Mr. Nkosi.
Good evening, JP.
Mr. Nkosi, let me take you through the issue of reserved judgments. It's correct that you did act in the Labour Court in Johannesburg last year, 2021.
That's correct, JP.
Now, on the issue of reserved judgment, the recent report which I have, as at the end of March 2021, shows that in the Labour Court in Johannesburg, you've got 6 outstanding reserved judgments, 5 reserved in April 2021 and 1 reserved on the 5th of May 2021. So the judgments are almost a year old. What's the position with regard? Have they since been handed down, these judgments?
Thank you for the question, JP. As far as I know, I don't have reserved judgments. I have delivered all judgments that were supposed to be delivered.
Yes.
There might have been some error somewhere where they indicated that they remain outstanding.
Okay.
There is none. They don't have any outstanding judgment.
Thank you. I see on your questionnaire, on page 27, on paragraph 9.5, on the questionnaire, where you are requested to set out your reserved judgment, then you indicated 2 part-head criminal cases in Mpumalanga High Court.
Oh, yes.
You did not indicate any outstanding reserved judgment. Is it correct?
Nothing is reserved. If it's not yet completed, it's because sometimes we don't finish, then we postpone to the next period during recess, because most of the judgments that needs to be completed, the ones that I say is partly hit, I only get a particular period in time to do it just during the recess period, because I'm not at all choosing dates, which ones do I have to finish all these cases. There are 3 of them. I could finish them within a particular time, but because I'm only allocated a few days, only to find that the criminal case, mostly are criminal cases, they have got so many witnesses. One case we find that has got 20, 30 witnesses. And if you are given only 1 day or 2 days to do those cases, you don't finish, then you wait until you are given another period during recess.
Lastly, on the issue of your acting stint, when was it when you acted in Limpopo division? You mentioned Toyando and Polokwane. When was it? What year was it?
2014 and 2015.
And that was the time when Limpopo division was not yet proclaimed as a division, which was still under...
That's correct.
Under Pretoria.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Since then, you haven't acted in Limpopo division since 2015 up to date hereof.
That's correct. I only acted in other divisions, yes.
Thank you. That would be all, Chief Justice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Advocate Singh.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good evening, Mr. Nkosi.
Good evening, Counsel.
If you are able to, please tell us how many judgments that you delivered were taken on appeal And what was the outcome of those appeals?
There's quite a number of them. I listed them on the package. I can't remember the exact number, how many, but there are a number of them that were taken on appeal. And there are a number of appeal matters that we did together as colleagues in the full bench where I'm not alone. So, but quite a number of them, we finished them. And so far, I did quite a number of them, not alone. And we delivered them. Everything is fine, it's just quiet. I haven't heard anything after delivering.
Thank you, Mr. Nkosi. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you. Before I go to Commissioner Makwanisha, Mr. Nkosi, the Judge President's information was that there were about 6 or 8 or 6 judgments from the labor courts that have been outstanding for close to a year. You are saying that in respect, you are saying that there is no judgment that took more or less that long before you handed them down, or you say, well, there were some that were reserved for maybe close to that period, but they have been handed down now.
Thank you, Sir. Yes, they were handed down, have been delivered.
Yes, after they had been reserved for how long?
Well, I didn't have the precise months or period. I don't want to take a guess because it will be dangerous to say it's 5 months or 6 months, but what I know is that all the labor court judgments have been delivered.
Well, were the periods anywhere close to what, to a year, or no, they could not have been longer than 3 months, or what?
It might have been longer than 3 months,
Yeah.
but not over a year.
But could they have been about 7 months? I'm just concerned about your inability to tell us how long they were, because any judgment that gets reserved for any length of time, a judge should be very concerned about it. And if you are coming to an interview such as this one, you know that this commission wants to know whether you are quick to hand down your judgments, and if you delay, how long you have delayed. So I'm concerned if you come to this body for an interview and you haven't even bothered to check what your situation is when it comes to the length by which you have reserved judgment. One would expect that if you are coming to an interview such as this, one of the things you would do is do your homework in terms of reserved judgments and be able to say to this commission, I have the longest judgments I have reserved in the past 12 months or 2 years is 3 months or 8 months. At least you would be specific, you know, but I'm concerned if you have no idea how long you have reserved judgments.
Thank you, CJ, for the question. What I'm confirming is that I don't have reserved judgments. As to whether, how long did they take, to be specific, otherwise I'll be guessing by using a number of months which I cannot confirm. But what I know is that all judgments that were reserved at a particular moment have been delivered.
Well, what is the longest period you have reserved a judgment in the labor court? That at least you should know, that the longest I have reserved a judgment in that court was X number of months or weeks.
a dangerous guess that I can take is that
You
not
mean you
more.
don't even know that? The longest judgment you have reserved in the labor court, you don't know how long it was.
I can estimate the period of 5 months to 6 months.
That's the longest.
Yes.
Okay, and how long ago was that? Was it last year? Was it this year?
It was last year.
Last year.
Yes.
Okay, so there is no judgment in the labor court that you have reserved for longer than 5 months,
I've delivered all my judgments.
within 5 months.
Yes.
Okay, and in the High Court, same thing?
In
Or
the
have you
High Court,
reserved?
the only judgments that are outstanding is the partly heard matters which could not be finished due to the fact that the time allocated gets shorter than the number of witnesses that are available.
Yes, but I see that you seem to, when this topic is being discussed, your emphasis is whether the judgment has been handed down or not, as if that's all that there is to it. Whereas, even if it has been handed down, it's still relevant to know how long you had reserved it before you handed it down. So my question is, in the High Court, is your record of reserving judgments the same as in the High Court, in the Labor Court, namely that the longest period you have reserved a judgment is 5 months, or is the position different in the High Court?
In the High Court, it's different in the sense that I don't have a judgment that is reserved because we have concluded all the evidence from all the parties and kept without having to deliver it, without any reason. All those that have been done and concluded has been delivered. A matter which is outstanding because it is not yet concluded due to the shortage of time remain party-head matters, not finalized but reserved to be judged, to deliver judgment.
So are you then saying to me, your record in the High Court is that you have never reserved any judgment at all, or you have reserved judgments, but you have never reserved a judgment beyond 5 months? Is that what you are saying in the High Court?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Klaba?
Thank you very much, CJ, and good afternoon, Dr. Nkosi.
Good evening, sir.
I just want to follow up on the list of decrees that you list in the questionnaire.
Yes.
You say you have LLD. Is
Yes.
that correct?
That's correct.
And you obtained that LLD in 2021. And what was the focus of your doctoral thesis? Or let me say the research towards your PhD, if it was PhD?
It's a doctoral study on legal studies and UNESCO Sustainable Development 2030 as a target.
And the title of the thesis, I'm sorry, because I'm dealing with the question.
No, that's fine.
Thank you, CJ. And the title of the thesis?
Sustainable Development on UNESCO 2030 target.
Okay. And does it bother you that the university is not recognized by the US Department of Education?
If I understand your question correctly, Commissioner, you say, did it bother me that the university is not recognized?
That's the question.
You know, when I approached the university for registration of the course that I wanted to do by the time, I didn't approach the university and ask them if you as an institution, are you recognized by any other institutions? Because it's even advertised in all the newspapers everywhere. That
No. The question is, does it bother you
No,
that the university is not recognized by the US authorities?
no, as far as I know, the university is recognized.
All right.
People were saying it's not recognized. I don't know where they take it from.
Okay.
But-
I want to move to the second question on the same aspect. Does it bother you that the university is not recognized by South Africa?
No, not at all. Because there's nowhere where they say you communicate almost every day with them to do further studies with them. There's nowhere where they say they are not recognized.
Okay. And just please bear with me because I'm dealing with
Yes.
the questionnaire,
Yeah.
CJ.
Okay.
And on page 3, paginated 19 of the questionnaire, you list the organizations that you were a member of, the political organizations that you were a member of. Can you see that?
I'm just opening the document. Here's page 3, I've got it.
Yes. And then on page 4, paginated, page 20, and you also list the secret organization that you were a member of.
I'm just paging through. My page 20 here is different,
No,
Commissioner.
I said it's number 3, paginated 19, and page 4, paginated 20. But I'm sure you should know this without referring to the questionnaire.
No. She's assisting me to get the right page. Okay. Now I've got it, page 19. And I mentioned the UDF, United Democratic Front.
Yes, which you joined in 1983.
Yes,
And then the next one,
the ANC.
which you joined when?
It was 1983 as well.
Where did you join it?
By that time, it was an organization which was operating in different cells. It was not open. So
No, my question is, where did you join it?
in Nelspruit.
In?
Nelspruit.
Nelspruit.
Yes.
And if you were a member of the United Democratic Front, you know that you could not be a member of the Democratic Front because it was a federation. Do you know that?
Well, whether it's a federation or give it a particular definition, by the time it was an organization, political organization, which was not openly registered for the
So-
purposes of registering.
Thank you
So-
very much. What was the name of the organization that was affiliated to the United Democratic Front that you were a member of?
I joined the United Democratic Front.
Mr. Nkosi, an individual could not join the UDF. That's a fact. So we are not going to debate about that. You could not join the UDF as an individual. You had to be a member of some other organization, and that organization would affiliate to the UDF. So how could you have joined as an individual? Did you sign forms for membership of UDF, the UDF?
CJ, can I answer the
I mean,
question?
we lived
Yes.
through the UDF times.
Yes.
We know what was happening.
I was only disclosing my participation, whether it was formal or informal. I was part of the UDF by the time.
Well, if you say you joined an organization that an individual could not join, it may well mean that it's not true that you participated. Because how could you not know if you were part of the activities of the UDF? that as an individual you could not join the UDF?
CJ, if I may also humbly respond to the
Yes.
question.
Yes.
By the time the form was completed, I wanted to disclose my participation, whether it was a formal registration, because you could be arrested at site. There was no time to complete forms to say, now I'm joining, here's the fee that I'm paying. We were part of the activities during that time of our country's political system. So I disclosed that I was part of the UDF, which was part of the ANC by that time.
So you still cannot tell me the name of the organizations you were a member of, which was affiliated to the United Democratic Front?
You know, we're operating underground.
No,
There was no formality.
The UDF was not underground.
That's not what I'm saying, Pascal. If you can give me an opportunity. I say we participated under the affiliation of the UDF, being Legacy Civic Association by the time. And at the same time, the association itself, we didn't have to complete a form to go and hand it over somewhere and pay money. As long as we were participating on what we had to do, being led by our own leaders by the time. I'm only disclosing what were I part of during that particular period.
Okay, I will pass, Chair. Just this one, last one, CJ, on the question again. You, on page 23, paginated 23, you are asked to indicate the proportion of your litigation work that you were involved in.
Yes.
And I don't know what you want us to read into the answers you are providing.
Page 23, paragraph number.
Yes, page 23.
Yes.
What proportion of your litigation work has been in the field of?
Okay, I'm looking at paragraph number 6.2.
6.2, correct.
Yes. Criminal law, as a general practitioner, one was helping clients in different cases. Criminal law.
No, the question is what proportion of your litigation work? And at least under criminal law, what was the proportion? Now, there's proportion of the entire legal work. And then you indicate, you give each one the proportions, the percentage or percentages.
Quite a number of cases that one was doing. Some were on individual, or maybe few people approaching you who are charged for a particular offense of criminal law.
That's fine, Chair. I will pass because of time. On
Yes.
page 27, that's the last question, CJ, my indulgence, please.
Yes.
You list the reserves judgments that were still outstanding at the time of compiling the application form. Is my understanding correct?
Paragraph number?
It's 9.5 on page 27.
Yes. State versus Sihlabele, Mpumalanga High Court. State versus Mashabane, Mpumalanga High Court. Let me explain one by one on this.
No. They were, in terms of what you are stating, you are saying they were outstanding at the time of compiling this application form.
Yes, it is.
Have they been finalized?
No, not yet.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Klaba. Commissioner Mapisa-Nqakula.
Thank you very much, CJ.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Nkosi. I just want to, other than the issues raised by Commissioner Klaba, I would like to just check one thing with you. In 1997, you represented Umkhonto Wesizwe in a military court sitting in Mpumalanga. What was the nature of the case? In 1997, you represented Umkhonto Wesizwe members in a military court sitting in Mpumalanga. The question is, what was the nature of the sitting of the case?
The members of MK by the time were already part of the integrated military in South Africa, and they were charged within the ranks of being ordinary soldiers in South Africa, charged in terms of the military disciplinary code. So we used to go and, or me and others, we used to go and defend most of the members on military cause because they were charged by the military police for failing to abide by the military code on different charges. That's what I meant by this. The military court, they call it court martials, have been charging many people who are members of the SANDF by the time, but they were those that are being identified as former people of the MK and charged on different charges in the military courts. Yes, I did. I was representing them. Sorry?
And you represented them?
Yes.
And they were charged?
Yes.
And they were found guilty?
No, they were not found guilty. I represented them.
How many?
Quite a number of them. Okay. Those who had, you know, after joining the SANDF and the former non-statutory bodies, there's a military code which is only applicable in the military courts. That's where I was representing my clients by the time, who happened to be people who were coming from non-statutory, which is MK. Some of them were APLA. So the military courts have been operating ever since. It's military police that have been continuing to charge them for different offenses. But we were there as attorneys together with others. I count myself in here because I was appearing before a military judge on behalf of these people.
I think no one is, CJ, no one is refuting that. But it's important for the record, yes, for us to know that indeed in 1997, yes, you represented members of non-statutory forces, yes, who were integrated into the SANDF, yes, in a military court.
Yes.
That's all we want.
Okay.
And my last question is a matter which was raised again by Mr. Kaba. I am concerned because in 1983, there was no branch of the ANC anywhere in the country.
It was underground movement, sister.
Yeah,
it's an underground movement. You didn't have to be open, but I'm disclosing what you were doing during the underground movement by the time.
Okay.
Yes.
So you were part of a cell operating in Mpumalanga?
Yes.
And that is something which, when you disclose organizations, you disclose and say, I was part of an underground. Because the question here is membership of organizations. Anyway, it's okay. I think you've clarified the matter.
But at the same time, if I may explain, CJ,
yes,
when you are being approached by family members of somebody who has been arrested by military police for the purposes of representation, we had to help them. So I was only disclosing what type of people were being arrested by the military police, who were going to be held in detention for as long as they could, only to appear on a particular day when they feel like, because they had to change even where the military courts are sitting. We will be in Nelspruit and be called in Piet Retief. We traveled 300 kilometers to go and check people who have been arrested by the military police where a bail system was not there. Once you're in incarceration, you remain in incarceration until the matter is finalized. So this is the nature of how we're operating in South Africa. It was not like normal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nkosi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, I've got a not so short list of people here. I'm going to give people an opportunity. All I ask is that each one just evaluates how important the issues are that they want to ask. And if you think that maybe they're not so important, it would help if we don't have too long a list. I skipped Commissioner Makwanishe earlier on, so I'm going back to him. I skipped him by mistake because I had put a tick, and yet I had not given a chance. Commissioner Makwanishe.
Thank you, CJ. Good evening, Mr. Nkosi.
Good evening, sir.
Just a quick follow-up on the issues raised by, in fact, on the issue raised by Commissioner Kaba.
Yes.
Did you submit your LLD for evaluation to the South African Qualifications Authority?
Okay. I didn't have to. I only registered with the university where I was registered, where they were providing the notes and references as to which books to read, and the test that they send to you, you submit it to a particular lecturer and get marked, and that's how you are evaluated. There's no requirement in any law which says if you are registered with this particular university, you must submit something somewhere else for the purposes of evaluation. If that was part of what the university that I'm registered was a requirement to do that, I could have gladly done that. I submitted all my assignments to the lecturers at that particular university, and they evaluated, they marked, they gave me the marks. There's nowhere where I skipped a particular requirement, like the one commissioner that is asking about, which was not there. It's not part of the university. Maybe different universities have got different ways of doing things, but it's an independent university on its own, and somebody has just mentioned that it's not recognized. As to who is supposed to be recognizing other institutions which are being advertised all over here in the newspapers and everywhere, that was not part of the requirement that one has to do it, unless if the university demands that you have to do that.
Mr. Nkosi, it is part of the South African dispensation that any foreign acquired qualification must be submitted to the South African Qualifications Authority for evaluation.
Commissioner, I hear what you're saying, but
Let's
I beg
pass.
to differ with you, because the university did not say you have to do this. Once you have read a particular article or portion of what you have to read, you must submit it to a different institution. That was not part of that. How could I have done it?
It's not the requirement of the university, it's the requirement of the South African dispensation that any foreign acquired qualification must be evaluated. But let's pass. You said that you are communicating with the university frequently.
Yes.
But it took me less than 2 minutes to find the following in the website of the university, that Atlantic International University is not accredited by the accrediting agency recognized by the United States Secretary of Education. It's in the website of the university.
I hear it for the first time, Commissioner.
So you've never seen that in the website of the university?
To be fair enough and be to respect your question that you're asking, my response to that is that there's nowhere where I was told that registering in this university, we have to check this and that so that you can see if this university or this institution has been registered at a particular level, or all that has to be dealt with, you have to submit it for the purposes of being checked by a particular organization in South Africa or not.
Thank you very much, CJ.
Thank you. Before I go, I move to Professor Schlemmer. Mr. Nkosi, from what you have said, I gain the impression that your attitude is you don't care whether the university from which you got this LLD is recognized or not. Is my understanding of your attitude correct?
CJ, with due respect, I am not suggesting that I don't care. I wouldn't have involved myself in studying so much work that they've sent us to read and to understand and be tested if I were not to care. All that I've done, I've registered for the course, and if it's not recognized in South Africa, I would have known, because they wouldn't let me to study for more than 2 years, not knowing that I was not even informed that, look, what you are doing is incorrect. If it's not recognized, I'll accept that it's not recognized by our own institutions in South Africa, but what I've done the necessary courses which put me to the level of where it's recognized. And up to master's level, which I did at the University of Pretoria, the LLD, yes, I did from this university, which is for the first time now, I hear that it was not. I wouldn't have spent such a lot of money paying for school fees, university fees, if I'm just throwing the money away.
You have also heard now from Commissioner Magwanishe that by looking at its website, it's indicated that the country in which it is doesn't recognize it. The authorities there don't recognize it. Does that concern you, that now you got this LLD from a university and the authorities of the country where it is don't recognize it, and it looks like South Africa, it is not recognized in South Africa. Does that not worry you, that you have an LLD from a university that doesn't seem to be recognized by your own authorities in your own country and is not recognized by the authorities of the country where it operates from?
CJ, with due respect, just hear this for the first time. And I'll take steps to find out from the authorities in South Africa what I'm hearing for the first time from the commissioner. I wouldn't have known if I was not alerted. I only registered because it's being advertised everywhere. Then I was one of those that got to register.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, but now that you know, are you concerned about the fact that your name is associated with such a university?
It troubles me, CJ. I will have to check and see if am I made to register at a university which, as from today now, I know that is not fully recognized by South Africa, but I'll take steps to establish that.
See, part of what concerns me is your reaction to the discovery of the news.
Yes.
That this university is not recognized. Your reaction didn't seem to be that of somebody who gets concerned because he thought it was well recognized. You seem to be defensive and to be suggesting that maybe commissioners are making a big deal out of nothing. Then that's the impression I got. Maybe that's not what you intended.
I'm surprised. I don't know how could I have made it quite clear to everyone present today whether I'm so surprised. I was taken for a ride, maybe, but I still have to take steps to make sure that my name is not associated with this kind of a situation. I didn't know. If I knew, I could have remained with the qualifications that I have, not to disclose it, and remain with the LLM that I have from the University of Pretoria.
Thank you. Judge President Lekhodi.
Mr. Nkosi, I'm here. I am here. And I must just tell you that whatever I come to put to you, I will do so with deep pain in my heart. You'll recall that on Monday evening I spoke to you, and I sought to talk to you like a brother and to advise you what you should not do.
Yes.
And you'll recall that you were not even aware that you were supposed to, that's what you told me, that you were supposed to come today. You thought you were going to come on the 22nd of April for the interview. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct, JP.
I'm not going to ask you to explain why you thought that you're going to come on the 22nd and not today. I will not ask you that. Can you go to paragraph 29? No, page 29 and paragraph 1 thereof. It says, are there any circumstances, and I will not read anything, known to you which may cause you embarrassment in undertaking the office of the judge? I'm sure you understood this question, am I right?
Yes.
And your answer there is no. Now, between the two of us, we know the truth. There was a judgment which was written in our court because you absented from coming to court, and in that judgment you are asked to be given the opportunity to come and respond by way of filing an affidavit. You did not. Instead, you wrote a letter where you actually sought to criticize the directive or the order that was given to you. And thereafter, a judgment was written and you were referred to the Legal Practice Council. You are aware of that. And I discussed it with you again on Monday, remember? Mr. Nkosi, are you still here with us?
Yeah, I'm listening to you.
No, but this one, you don't have to look at the paper. You just have to answer. You are aware that there was a judgment that was written by me and your conduct was referred to the Legal Practice Council. You are aware of that. Am I right?
No.
No, you can't say you don't know, Mr. Nkosi. You confirmed that on Monday, and that judgment was emailed to your office. Are you still saying no? Because I can tell you, Mr. Nkosi, you need to be very careful about what you are saying, because this might result in putting you in a big trouble. It has got everything to do with your integrity. It has got everything to do with the possible commission of seeking to mislead us. You are aware of that judgment, am I right?
JP, with your respect, I spoke to you on Monday, as you indicated just now, but we didn't speak about this one.
Okay.
And with your respect, I'm not trying to mislead this commission by any way. If there's anything that I am being accused of having done, it would have been better if this was made clear so that I could respond appropriately. But now I'm taken by surprise.
Okay.
You, on your own, JP, you approached me and asked me if I know that on the 6th, this sitting will be here in Johannesburg. I said to you, I didn't know the way the letter that I received was referring to. It was as if it's the 22nd. That's what I said to you.
Okay. Now, you remember 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I stopped you staying at a hotel in Bombela at a huge expense to the public purse, because your home is actually almost like 5 kilos from the hotel. You remember that?
Yes.
And at that time, we were still funded by Pretoria. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Can you share with these commissioners why you decided to put up at a hotel at the expense of the public purse when your home is about 5 kilos away from you, from the hotel?
If I remember very well, we did speak about this.
4 or
And
5 years ago, am I right?
I'm not exactly sure of the years, whether it's 4 years or 5 years or so, but long time ago. Yes, I remember you asked me about it, but when one was appointed to act in Mpumalanga, the Pretoria office was the one that was booking everything. So the accommodation was booked together with the fact that I will be attending to 1 or 2 cases in Mpumalanga, which one was in Hazyview, one was in Barberton, one was in Nelspruit. So when they booked, they included accommodation by the time. For me, I could not have known that I'm not supposed to be staying in Nelspruit by the time because I'm also staying in Nelspruit. But for me, it was for the purposes that I shouldn't be disturbed when I'm staying at home. I will be having a place where I'll be able to read documents and analyze all documents that I have to do and prepare to go to court, which I suddenly took your advice to say, let me cancel this and I'll pay for myself for that particular moment so that I can prepare my work properly without having to be disturbed at home. No intention to cause government to pay for me on that particular time.
Now, let us go back to paragraph 9.6 on page 28. And the question reads as follows. Are there any part-head matters which you should bring to the attention of the Commission? And there you will see, Mr. Nkosi, that you said State versus Lucas Setole, defense and state cases closed. I can't read the other thing there, but there is also an issue of heads of argument. So what you are saying here is that you have got only one case which is part-head, and that is Lucas Setole. Now, in paragraph 9.5, and I'm going to read it to you again, on page 27, please list any reserve judgments still outstanding and the date or dates on which judgment was reserved. This question is very specific and is very clear. Now there, this is what you're saying. State versus Setlhabela, Mpumalanga High Court. In other words, you're saying you have got a reserve judgment in State versus Setlhabela. There you have written also State versus Mchwana, Mpumalanga. In other words, we are saying this matter is also reserved. But look what you say immediately thereafter. In brackets, state cases closed, almost finished. And I'm sure, as a judge for that matter, this question should have been clear to you. Now, it looks like there are 3 part-head matters in my division, and I know of only 2. But these matters, can you tell the commissioners that they have been reserved for more than 5 years or 4 years? Am I right? You did this, you assist with these matters before I was even appointed as a JP of Mpumalanga in 2017. Am I right? These 3 part-head matters, you assist with them even before I was appointed in Mpumalanga in 2017 as a judge president. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, justice delayed, justice denied. Do you want to say anything?
Okay. Let me put it clearly so that maybe it will make sense on what I'm going to say. State versus Sitlabela is not a matter that has been completed waiting for judgment or reserve judgment. This matter, up to now, has not yet been concluded. The reason is that when I started doing this matter in 2017, we did it at Graskop. It went on to be postponed because we couldn't finish as partly heard. We went on to his review. And this matter up to now has not been completed. The reason is there are so many witnesses, and the time allocated for the purposes of this case was so short, and so many witnesses. The record is there. JP knows about it. You can't say now, I did it deliberately to make the case as if it's a reserve judgment. It's not a reserve judgment. It's a matter which is continuing. I'm only allocated 1 day to do it on a recess. And recess comes once after 3 months all the time. Okay. I'm not allocated more than 2 days for this matter, which is a criminal matter where so many witnesses are there. And it's not my own making that there should be so many people, but only allocated for 1 day each moment.
Does it worry you?
The second one.
Okay, yes, you may proceed, Mr. Nkosi.
The second one, State versus Mashabane. State versus Mashabane is one of the cases also which, during the period when it was allocated to me, there were only a few days. But because I only get allocated 1 day for a case which got more than 10 witnesses, which I cannot finish in 1 day. So this matter is one of the matters that is still not completed because I only get 1 day allocated, despite the fact that the case docket will show you that there's got so many witnesses that has to be called. I cannot short-circuit it to get the matter finalized immediately when everyone is not given an opportunity to be heard. I told that to the JP. I cannot simply just prolong cases of other people to make myself guilty of justice delayed deliberately. There's none of that nature that I deliberately postpone these matters. I'm not allocated enough days. That you know, JP.
No, but Mr. Nkosi, you know that there is no 1 day about these matters. And you know that I also had to manage your cases because they were taking a long period of time. There was an excuse that there is no record of the proceedings. You wanted the record of the proceedings. I case managed those matters because I could see there was a hell lot of delay. And thereafter, you could not deal with the matter. And that brings us to another issue. And that is page 20 of and paragraph 11. Can you have regard to that?
Open it.
I'm not going to mention what is discussed there because it might be having a bearing on your right of privacy. But you know that there are things that I know, and at one stage we had to take you home. And you know what I know, that this matter could not proceed on the day to which it was postponed because you had problems. Now, do you think you have got the energy and the stamina to deal with the load of work for judges?
With due respect, honorable commissioners, JP knows as much that we can't mix issues here. The cases that I'm referring to that up to now are not yet completed because of the days on which I'm allocated. If you allocate me 1 day, in a case with so many witnesses, if I've just alluded earlier on, the matter, by the end of the day, will have to be postponed to another date. And this thing is beyond my control because I asked for permission to say, I need a few days on which I'll finish the case. Criminal cases usually got so many witnesses. if I deal with one matter at a particular time and the state only is able to do one witness at a particular moment, what about the rest of the witnesses? I cannot simply just close the case and say, let's finalize for the purposes of making it easier for me to come and attend to the case on given moments.
Mr. Nkosi, the last question. There is 4 week or 5 weeks recess period and 2 weeks recess period. And since you started with these matters many years ago, you had the opportunity to deal with those matters during the recess period, and not the 1 day that you're talking about. You could put one matter for 4 weeks during the recess period, or 2 weeks during the shorter recess period. Am I right?
You're quite correct, JP, but can I be given an opportunity to respond to the 1 day that you allocate me every moment when I'm asking for dates? I'm allocated 1 day, and the witnesses are more than 10. What can I do beyond that?
When were you given 1 day period? Can you just explain to us?
Chief Justice.
I don't feel...
Mr. Nkosi.
Commissioner Singh.
Okay.
Yeah, Chief Justice, with due respect that Mr. Nkosi has been using all the time.
Oh, yes.
Our responsibility as a JSC here is to assure ourselves of the credibility, of the integrity, of the suitability of a candidate that appears before us.
Yeah.
And I would like to submit, although I'm on the list of questions as well,
Yeah.
I would like to submit, Chief Justice, that as a commission,
Yeah.
we have heard enough to be able to discuss
Yes.
during the time that we have the suitability of Mr. Nkosi.
Yes.
So
No,
I'm just
thank
putting
you.
that to the commissions.
Thank you. I just had a word with the JP here, and I wanted to find out whether there is anybody who really still needs the interview to continue. Is there anybody who wants the interview to continue?
No, Chief Justice, I didn't want, but the only thing I wanted to say, because I have a list here of the reserve judgment. Mr. Nkosi's judgment reserved from April 2021 for 9 months, 8 months. My point is, I wanted to say, as a last parting shot, by now Mr. Nkosi should have been charged
Yeah.
in terms of the norms and standards. We should not be having Mr. Nkosi. And he patently lied to the JP. Here is a list of outstanding cases which are listed even in the website. I wanted that to put to him. Thank you.
CJ, shall I release Mr. Nkosi? Yeah. Mr. Nkosi, you are excused.
Thank you, CJ.